Imagine waking up in the middle of a freezing winter night. The temperature outside is nearly minus 30 degrees Celsius. You're safe inside your tent with 8 of your closest friends. Then suddenly something terrifies all of you so much that instead of opening the tent normally, you slash your way out with a knife. You don't stop to put on your boots. You don't grab your coats. You run barefoot into the darkness. Weeks later, rescuers discover your tent ripped open from the inside. 9 experienced hikers have vanished. When their bodies are finally found, the mystery only grows stranger. Some died from hypothermia. Others suffered massive internal injuries without major external wounds. One victim was missing her tongue. Some clothing even showed traces of radiation. There were no signs of another person's footprints, no evidence of a fight, and no clear explanation. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. So what really happened on that frozen mountain? Our story begins in January 1959 in the Soviet Union. A group of 9 experienced hikers, led by 23-year-old engineering student Igor Dyatlov, set out on a challenging skiing expedition across the northern Ural Mountains. These weren't beginners. Most were experienced mountaineers who had completed difficult winter expeditions before. The goal was to reach Mount Otterten, a remote peak deep in the wilderness. Originally, 10 people joined the expedition, but one member, Yuri Yudin, became seriously ill with joint pain early in the journey. Reluctantly, he turned back. At the time, he believed it was the biggest disappointment of his life. Instead, it saved his life. Yudin would become the only member of the expedition to survive. The remaining 9 hikers continued into the mountains. They skied through deep snow, crossed frozen rivers, laughed together, took photographs, and wrote diary entries. Everything appeared completely normal. Nothing in their journals suggested fear or concern. On February 1st, 1959, poor weather caused the group to drift off their planned route. Instead of camping in the shelter of the nearby forest, Igor Dyatlov decided to pitch their tent on the exposed slope of Koletsyakhl. The name roughly translates to Dead Mountain. Although the location offered little protection from the wind, experienced hikers sometimes camped on open slopes to save time the next morning. They dug a platform into the snow, set up their tent, ate dinner, and prepared for the night. It would be the last evening of their lives. No one knows exactly what happened after darkness fell, but sometime during that night everything changed. The hikers were expected to send a message after completing their expedition. When no message arrived, relatives grew worried. A search party was finally organized. On February 26th, rescuers discovered the tent. It was partially buried beneath snow. The hikers' boots, warm clothing, food, cameras, and personal belongings were still inside. Even stranger, the tent had been cut open from the inside. It appeared that the group had escaped in extreme panic. Footprints led away from the campsite. Some were barefoot. Others wore only socks. The tracks continued downhill toward a forest nearly 1.5 kilometers away. The rescuers followed them. What they found would become one of history's greatest mysteries. Beneath a large cedar tree, investigators found the first 2 victims. Both were wearing only underwear. Nearby were the remains of a small fire, suggesting they had desperately tried to stay warm. Several broken branches high up in the tree indicated that someone had climbed it, perhaps searching for the tent or trying to spot danger. A few hundred meters away, 3 more bodies were discovered, including Igor Dyatlov himself. They appeared to be crawling back toward the tent, as though they had realized they couldn't survive in the forest, and made one final attempt to return. Months later, after the snow melted, rescuers found the remaining 4 hikers inside a nearby ravine. Their injuries shocked investigators. One had a fractured skull. 2 suffered crushed ribs, so severe that experts compared the force to a high-speed car accident. Yet strangely, there were almost no major external wounds. One victim, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue. Her eyes were also gone. At first, these injuries fueled terrifying theories, but modern forensic experts believe many of these missing soft tissues were likely caused by natural decomposition and scavenging animals after months beneath snow and running water. Even so, the unexplained internal injuries remain one of the case's biggest mysteries. Over the years, countless explanations have been proposed. Some believe the hikers were killed during a secret Soviet military experiment. Others suggest they witnessed classified weapons testing. Some blame UFOs, citing reports of mysterious orange lights seen in the sky around the same time. Others believe they encountered something supernatural, perhaps even the legendary Yeti. These theories captured the public's imagination, but none were supported by convincing evidence. Today, most scientists believe a much simpler explanation. In 2021, researchers used computer models originally developed to study avalanches. Their conclusion was surprising. They believe a small but powerful slab avalanche may have struck the tent hours after it was pitched. The pressure of heavy snow could explain the severe chest injuries. Fearing a larger avalanche, the hikers quickly cut their way out of the tent and moved downhill into the forest. In the darkness, with freezing temperatures and hurricane-force winds, they became separated. Some died from hypothermia. Others attempted to return to the tent but collapsed before reaching it. The remaining hikers sought shelter in the ravine, where the heavy snow may have caused their fatal injuries. While this theory answers many questions, it still doesn't explain every detail, and because no one survived, the complete truth may never be known. More than 60 years have passed since 9 young hikers disappeared on the icy slopes of Dead Mountain. Their cameras preserved their final smiles. Their journals recorded hopes of adventure, but the mountain never revealed what truly happened that night. Perhaps it was simply nature at its most unforgiving, or perhaps one crucial piece of the story vanished forever beneath the snow. The Dyatlov Pass incident reminds us that even in our modern world, there are still places where mysteries remain unsolved. And sometimes, the most frightening answer is not knowing.